Welcome to the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we connect Black families to Black therapists. On Mondays, you will receive direct therapeutic support from a licensed therapist or professional connected to the mental health field. They will provide therapeutic and educational resources to help you have a healthier relationship with your family members. On Wednesdays, you will receive direct tips and resources to help you get through the stuck places that prevent many people from having the relationships with their families and significant others that they desire. On Fridays, we want you to visit our blog, which can be found at www.blackmftmatters.com, which holds additional resources and action steps that you can begin implementing immediately to improve your relationships. This is necessary because we love that you are listening, but we want you to take action too. While you are there, please grab our A to Z Relationship Bootcamp and be provided with the skills you need to immediately communicate better within your relationships. Please note that while the therapists on podcasts are therapists, they do not serve as your therapist unless you have signed a confidential agreement with them confirming that relationship. Thank you in advance for listening, and we hope you are inspired. All right, it's time for the show. Here is your host, Dr. Connie Omari.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we are breaking toxic relationships in the Black community. Okay, we have a guest here today. Her name is Sulonda Smith. Hi, Sulonda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm
How are you? Awesome. Well, can I introduce you to our audience today?
Please do. I'm excited.
Amazing. Wow, Sulonda Smith was a psychotherapist for 27 years and is now a coach and consultant for men. Her coaching programs, courses, and live events help men solve problems and create peace. She feels honored to have coached thousands of wonderful clients worldwide. She's the creator of Communicate in a Way She Understands, Enter the Woo Zone, and How to Create the Ideal Relationship. Online courses and programs designed to get people out of toxic cycles, gain a deeper understanding, and communicate in ways that are meaningful and life-changing. Her vision is for everyone to have the type of relationship adventures that help them thrive in a personal and professional way by mastering the art of communication and conversation. Fewer fights and less stress equals happier times and stronger connections. Wow, awesome. Thank you for your work.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a passion for me.
I see that. You know, I really like the fact, because I just had a guest here, when did we go live with her? A couple of months ago, who is also a female that was also working with men. And I think that's amazing. But I'm just curious, what got you into wanting to work with men in your coaching program?
A couple reasons. One, I have 7 brothers.
That'll do it. I'm just curious, where are you in the line of 7 brothers?
I'm the oldest. Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So just hearing their stories, listening to their problems, and actually being able to solve them and help them with it. Common ones to the most difficult, delicate ones. And then also, I've noticed when I was practicing therapy, at least maybe the last 7 years, more men have been coming to therapy willingly, like the girlfriend or the wife did not call for them and threaten them or make an ultimatum that they had to come. Mm-hmm. They were actually coming on their own. So that piqued my interest, say, okay, they're ready.
They're ready. Yeah.
Right.
Good. Yeah. I think we kind of, and by we, I'm just saying society, I think we give men a hard time by implying that, they might not want the help, as opposed to maybe might not have access to the help, or might not know that help is available, or facing cultural norms that make it difficult to ask for help. What would do you think that there's some barriers to, certainly, you mentioned that, they're ready. So certainly there's some level of resistance that's possible in the Black community with men? What do you think is the barrier that makes it hard for them to get help?
Of course, it's old school teachings that's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
Uncle Jasper,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Tell me about Uncle Jasper.
Right, and no doubt that people have wisdom and they get to share, but folks like Uncle Jasper, or the old school teachings coming from dad, or even, heads of churches, and even entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different avenues that embed in a man's mind that he's supposed to present himself a certain way and only stay in that position to maintain power. Like, this is the underlying subconscious thought about who I should be as a man. So now that's changing, again, with entertainment, with music, and I think just as a shift, because that's one thing we can always rely on is change.
Absolutely. The only thing that stays the same is change, for sure. So the question that we had that you're going to answer is a question that came from our community. And that question was basically how to respond to a Black man without him getting defensive. I don't know if we remember the exact terminology, but more or less, what was it?
So yeah, you're on it. You're on the money. So it was, how do you respond to a Black male without insulting him or embarrassing him or insulting him?
Let's kind of break that down, because first of all, yes, we want to know how to respond without doing that. But why is it wrong to do that? Or why is it bad to do that?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the latter first. So what impact does it have to respond to a man?
Okay.
And in my mind, like, all of these misunderstandings, that's what we'll call them. Misunderstandings come to my mind that women have about men in the first place. She too, listening to Auntie Maddie or, whoever, and nowadays there's more information on social media. You don't really understand who you're working with. And I don't like to say deal with, in our language, we have a habit of saying, well, how do you deal with that person? And to me, when you say dealing with someone, creates an arm length, and it creates a separation, first of all.
Absolutely. It makes it seem like it's a burden, or you're tolerating as opposed to interacting and embracing. Go ahead.
And that's it, Dr. Amari. It's the interaction, the willingness to want to interact, because many of us don't. We want to defend.
Oh man, you hit it on the head. And it's so funny, because I can't speak for this person, but the question was asked in such a way that it's like, how do I do it without offending him, as if he's the problem? But sometimes it's us, like the way we show up and present, like we don't want to deal with the problem either.
It's miseducation.
Mm-hmm.
I think from what I've learned, I know for a fact with my research and working with people for so many years, it's a set of values that we are given. They're passed on from our caregivers. Mm-hmm. So if you never receive a different way to work with somebody, to interact with someone, to communicate with them, to love them, to see them, to embrace them, then you're doing the same thing that your caregivers did, because you didn't learn differently. And that's how we get to this state right now, and having generations who just interact with each other on the level of obsession, possession, defense, offense, separation. And we can call in what happened to our people 400, 450 years ago. The bottom line is, today, if you want a different relationship, you really have to embrace who you are as a person first, and then the other person. What I'm finding, especially for men, is that because the times are changing, they're having a hard time finding out where their place is, because the old school place was to protect, perform, provide, and problem solve, right?
Correct.
Well, that's a little different. Many women are doing those things themselves. So he's like, well, what do you need me for? And then on top of that, when what he asks for, which doesn't sound like what we ask for, or even how we ask for things, is dismissed or overlooked, then he feels like there's no investment from her. She's not interested in the relationship, or really doesn't care. And then going back to how we interact with each other, it's just different. Like, women, when we get together, we talk about all the details. Correct. We talk about, Anne accidentally sprung her ankle walking up 3 flights of stairs with 6-inch stilettos with her polka dot flu dress that didn't match her striped top, right? He don't want that. He just want to know, is Ann hurt? That's it.
Correct.
He wants the bullets. So when people ask me about men having egos, I see two different people, and maybe you agree with this too. You have someone who is overinflated, using their ego to be forceful, to be aggressive, to be very self-centered. I mean, it locks everybody else out, because you can be self-centered and just focused on you for health too. But then you have another person who is focusing on just being a male. Like the nature of a male, if he is to protect, provide, perform, then he's definitely going to show up in an aggressive way because he has to protect his territory. What he doesn't know, and this is what I show and I teach, is there's a way to talk to his partner without bringing in all of that, protective mode, that sheath mode that he goes into. It's very different. And that's what I mean by miseducation. So we both, men and women, have to learn about how each functions biologically, physically, psychologically, and mentally.
I love that.
It's a science. Yeah.
I was reading an article not too long ago, and I'm just reminding myself about this with respect to my own seasons. Anger, men are taught that they can really have very few emotions. It's not that they're emotionless. It's just that certain emotions get encouraged more than others. And especially with Black men, for whatever reason, that tough demeanor is what is glamorized. It's glamorized in sports. It's glamorized in the media. It's glamorized when they're on, TV and shows sexually. I mean, they're just considered this dominant, aggressive people. And I think it's amazing that you are emphasizing, but the protective role and the providing role, things like that, it does kind of change, like with respect to how we are in society. When I think about the emotions, though, that's tied to aggression, I obviously think of anger. Anger, as we know, is a secondary emotion. There are typically things that are beneath that. And those are the things that we're not talking about enough amongst men. A man can be angry, but can he be humiliated? Can he be embarrassed? Can he be depressed? Can he be anxious? So we only will respond or acknowledge or respect a man who can be aggressive and, tough and strong. Are we going to give him that same respect if he says, I'm hurting?
Absolutely. Probably not.
Nah, you're a little punk,
Right? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Because many women want that tough man, right? And they overlook the nice one, the pushover. Right?
This is like I say, you want him tough until he knock you upside the head. Right. You're like, wait, why you hit me?
And they're angry because he can't manage. Right? He's not designed to be yelled at.
Right.
To be controlled, to be belittled. He doesn't have, many men, I don't like to say all, many men do not have the capacity to hold that type of energy being hurled at him by her.
Correct.
And it's biological. Like, we have lower levels of testosterone, they have higher levels, which gives them the blueprint to help, be more aggressive and all of the masculine things, because there's a difference between masculine and femininity. It has nothing to do with gender or your sex.
Okay. Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all, every being is either, they have a masculine and they have a feminine side. It has nothing to do with
you can be very feminine like me, but have these little face hairs or whatever that I struggle with.
That's more hormonal.
Oh, that's hormonal. Okay. Well, explain to me.
You're on it.
Okay.
So let's take maybe a woman who in her appearance, she dresses like a male.
Okay.
And if you watch her closely, she might even try to assert herself like a male, to be more dominant, to be more aggressive, to be more problem-oriented, problem-solving. Those are masculine traits. Now, here again, I don't want anyone to hear this as that's a bad thing, because women and men have these traits. You have to learn when to use them. The feminine quality is receiving. It's gentleness. It's openness. And both men and women have this. When men go home at night, he slips into his feminine nature because he has dropped at the threshold of the door the need to be aggressive and protect himself and make sure he remains that powerful man in the world. to get things done. But when he comes home, he wants to come home and slip into his femininity nature, which is him receiving love and peace and attentiveness and respect from his partner. But when he has to bring his masculine self into his home or to his woman, he never gets to balance himself out with also being feminine. We all should be at a balance.
Can you help me understand why he would have to bring that? I want to say aggressive, but I noticed you didn't use that word. But that, why would he have to bring that same tough person on the outside into the home?
Couple reasons. One, he hasn't learned women. So he hasn't learned to work with her to help her even be in her feminine as well.
Okay.
And two, she has set up a hostile environment. Now, men can do that too, but what I find is
she don't need a man. She fine all by herself.
Right, but she has one, but she doesn't know what to do with him. Right, so she creates a cycle. Yeah. So
she doesn't take off hers either. She has to be a boss outside of the home.
There you go.
She come home and forget she might need to cook or clean the house or rub his feet and seeing that as a sense of, because for me, I mean, and we talked about this earlier, I believe in the Christian values, but I see submission as such a strength. You know what I mean? I think it's so, I mean, my grandma had 13 children, all right? And I don't care how much testosterone these men got, but they're not a man in the world who can do that. You know, you can't even have one. And I just see that as powerful and strength and whatever. And I don't know, I believe, and maybe I've gone off completely on a tangent with my beliefs, but I think our society has just taken it to the place where we see that as bad. And so it does, like, as you're saying, create an imbalance because, you know, we're competing. I want my man to protect me. You know, I want him to provide. I want him to, you know, just show up in those dominant ways. To me, that's so sexy. And I love to get to be the feminine one. While at the same time, like you said, because I'm the feminine one, providing that soft, gentle place for him to land when he comes home.
Absolutely.
I digress. So
I love that because you mentioned a topic that's hot and that's submission. And what is it? There's subservience and then there's submission.
I love it.
Subservience is when you don't have a choice. You're being made. You're forced.
Love that. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna credit you, but I'm gonna use that. Yes, I've not been able to find the word for that, but that's exactly what the issue is.
Yeah, please do. You know, when you're subservient, you are seen as less than. You don't have value. And submitting is a choice. So you're submitting to a person, an entity, or an idea that can help you be your best in service. So then it goes back to her selecting the right man.
Partner, correct.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by miseducation, misunderstanding, is because this whole separatist thing we have going on is what keeps us deeper in our non-being self. Yes, and in our vision. So when you understand who you're working with, who you're interacting with, that he's not trying to purposefully torture you because he doesn't want to have a conversation like you do with your girlfriend because he isn't designed to because of the higher levels of testosterone.
Correct.
You can digress and find peace in that. It's not against you. Women think men are against them. Women think men do not have emotional intelligence. And you touched on this earlier, where they have a vast amount of emotional intelligence, even though there really aren't many emotions. There's a couple, and there's a whole bunch of adjectives.
Yeah, right.
So when she realizes that when she stopped talking to him, this is a tip, when she stopped talking to him like she's talking to her girlfriend, he will get more response from her. Give the details to your girlfriend and give him the bullets. He cannot maintain or contain. Now, here again, I'm going to generalize. Many men cannot contain a lot of information at once. He needs one note, then he needs to process that. Then you give him the second note, let him process that, and then give him the last note, let him process it.
Yeah, I could tell my girlfriend, my husband the same story, and it could be about somebody like having a divorce. But if I'm telling my girlfriend, it's like, okay, I went to the store and I saw Janie and I met her at the mall and she was getting this dress and the dress was so beautiful, and then she tried to try it on and it didn't fit and it didn't look right. You know, you go through all of it, and we get to the point where we finally go out to the brunch, and then she's telling me about her divorce. That's what I tell my girlfriend. I try to do that with my husband. He's like, what happened? I don't care about the dress. I don't care about the store. I don't care if she was too fat to fit in the dress. You know, it's just like, is she getting a divorce or not? You know?
Yes, you have a good tip to remember is start with the outcome first when you're talking
with the
to
man.
Yeah, start with the outcome, right? What actually happened, and then work backwards. And if he says, okay,
but I know if I tell him that, yeah, that's what I said. I know if I tell him that.
Respect that, because he's like, and see, this is another thing women don't know about men is that he really wants to help her be happy. Now, I don't ascribe to men making women happy.
Okay.
Right? She does that on her own. Every person, human being, does that on their own. And then he gets to add on to her happiness. Correct. Right? Because happiness is a state of mind. That's my belief. Mm-hmm. It's not sought externally. So when a man is, I hadn't answered directly in a way that admits that men are egotistic, because it's their nature that I think is defined as being egotistic, which is to protect and serve, literally, his woman and his family, his kingdom, his territory, his space, however he's going to refer to it. Black men in particular, brown, black men, men of African descent, because of our history and how they were taught about who they are, just like women, I think that that's still encoded somewhere in the DNA, because it's passed on from generation to generation. If it isn't addressed, if it isn't spoke about, meaning if you don't tell him when he's younger, you are the greatest among other great people. Mm-hmm. You know, you can do anything you want to do, regardless of who says you can't, right? I'm going to hug you and let you know that you are loved and that you are valued. Others might not see that, but that's not how you define yourself. Right. See, these type of reminders has to be embedded in young men so that they can grow up with that concept in the back of their mind, and they're ready for the world when the world doesn't smile at them, when they want to leave out of an elevator or clench their purses or walk on the other side of the street. If they are ingrained with who they are at a young age and told about what to look out for when they don't get that reflection, they're ready. They're better. They don't have to be so defensive. Because the world is already not in favor of them, okay? The last thing they want to do is come home to their woman and she not be in favor of him.
Absolutely. But what I've learned is that she is often struggling with her own demons and her own battles. And she's often afraid. I think subconsciously, a lot of times, you're right. So sometimes we probably have no clue whatsoever. You know, she was taught by her mother. Her mother is probably struggling, you know, probably not the best ideal situation, maybe with some financial dependence on a man who may have exploited that. I've seen a lot of that. But how do you, and I know you you specialize in working with men, but how do you address the issue of him coming home to a home with a woman who's also broken? So she doesn't have the knowledge herself to give him that safe space.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. I used to teach a course called Sacred, Sexy, and Satisfied.
Sacred, Sexy is satisfying.
For women. Sacred, Sexy, and Satisfied for women. Okay. And it taught from 3 tenets. 1, you want to know yourself, so learn, know thyself. 2, understand men. And 3, how to create a partnership. Okay. So what I do for men is that I teach him about who a woman is and all the possible things she could have gone through that is now showing up at his front door that he has to now deal with. And the first concept is compassion for another human being, period.
Okay.
It's compassion. And then we move into him learning how to not feel like she's after him or torturing him, because the bait and switch happens. When they first start dating and they're courting and they get married, it's all good. Looks good.
Yes, beautiful.
And after that, she
Year
switched.
2 sets in,
Yes,
a baby
yes,
or two, and
yes.
so it's getting real good.
Yes. It changes the dynamics, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
He doesn't get that, because in his mind, he's thinking, what I invested in the beginning is what I want forever.
Forever.
So it's education. So I teach him about that. So it's educating him about the developmental of a woman and what she goes through, especially when there are new things coming into her life, like children, like work, like managing a household, like family members, so many things over the course of her life. Thirdly, I help him manage his own awareness and confidence in who he is. That goes back to teaching young children how great they are. So that when it isn't working at home, and he's now getting the tools, because I believe women are a skill set. He's getting the tools to help her and offering an opportunity for her to heal herself, so that now they can create this really good relationship. Right? That's the goal. Now, don't get me wrong. Then this might go against, some of your audience's principles and maybe even your own. I don't believe in continuing a relationship that's abusive, or that's self-harming, or that it doesn't allow.
I hope nobody's disagreeing with that.
Hey, look,
Get out.
It's not even. I'm not even referring to Christianity, but there are some people that believe once you marry,
That's
it's
the
a
last part.
I had a client in California when I lived in California. It's where I got my degree in counseling. And I had a client, she was from Iran, and she was being severely abused physically, emotionally, sexually by her husband. They got a housekeeper, and the housekeeper was from the islands. And the husband started having sex with the housekeeper. And the wife would not leave. And then the housekeeper got status as the woman in the house and started physically harming the mother. The wife.
The wife.
Yes, my client. And she would not leave that situation, because she said if she doesn't stay, and if she dies without being married, she won't be able to enter into heaven. So she'd rather stay in the abusive relationship and take the chances of dying from the abuse, and knowing that she will get into heaven after her life.
My.
Everybody has different beliefs, and I respect that. My work is to, like you said earlier, you work from a capacity of people who are ready to hear your message.
Correct.
And for her, for that lady, my message may not ever resonate for her, but for others, it does.
And my biggest concern with that, just speaking from a therapist perspective, is safety. I mean, like, you talking about till death do you part. Oh, your death gonna come sooner. If you continue to stay in a situation like that.
But how she died, just dying itself, was not as important to her than getting into heaven. From her concept, yes, that was most important. So death was frivolous.
That didn't even matter. It's just what
Right.
happened after.
The quality of her life was frivolous. It didn't matter to her.
So she took whatever she interpreted in terms of the scripture, I guess, to justify that.
Yes.
But really disregarded all. I mean, what about the abundance? What about the joy? What about the peace? that
Didn't matter. Her ultimate goal was, after this life was done, that she gets into heaven, because that life, that existence, matters more than the physical for her.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, if you really want an abundance life here on the planet, if you're really interested in happiness while you're here, then you have to leave a situation that is not conducive or is setting that up for you.
Oh, absolutely.
That's imperative.
That makes me sad. That makes me really sad. I have a question, and I don't have nearly, obviously, the expertise that you do. But, when you talk about education, just tell me in a layman sense, does this make sense? What I have seen in terms of really great relationships, and our relationship is far from perfect. We have been married 12 years. I've learned a few things. And one of the things that I think that kind of helps us in other relationships that I admire are when the woman who's naturally feminine and, quoting scripture, the weaker sex kind of has a little bit of a tough edge on her, and a man who's naturally, more dominant and stronger has a little bit of a softer side. And I find that when these two come together, it seems to work really well because, like, I'm naturally feminine and delicate, but I don't know. I just kind of I just have a little bit of huff to me. You know what I mean? And I don't know. What do you see? Do you see that typically? I know that sounds real. It might sound really crazy, but
no, it's definitely dynamics. And in no way do I think women should always be feminine and men should be masculine or anything like that. Or like I said, we all have these two aspects within us, and knowing how to use them to benefit for our lives.
Yes.
It's a formula. So what you just mentioned is a formula. It's those people knowing how to, or allowing those aspects to come and show out, because unfortunately many of us are taught, like women, you need to be feminine, you need to be more feminine, don't be aggressive, don't be controlling, don't be. And it's all the masculine traits they tell us not to be. However, it's a part of us, and that's how we get stuff done. That's how we schedule appointments. Yeah. That's how we get somebody to stop cheating us. That's how, if we're working, that's how we are in our work.
Get in the top. That's how we get this education. That's how we get this degree. Exactly. So I guess the challenging thing is where do we put all that? Because we do need it. Just like the man needs to show one thing and then come home and be one way, we as women have to do one thing and come home and be one way. And I think once we really master that, fully understand the value in that.
Absolutely.
I think you've really hit it on the head with your just acknowledgement of lack of education. I just think people just simply don't know. Because I do think it goes both ways. Women are talking to women to understand men, but men be talking to men to understand women.
Yes, absolutely.
They do too, I mean, it's almost, sometimes I'm like, you just want another man. You just want a feminine body. You know what I mean? Like, you like the look in the woman, but you want the woman to think like a man, and that's not how this is going to work.
Same concept that I mentioned earlier is that when women talk to men, they think they're talking to a girlfriend.
Yeah.
The delivery has to be different. Now, no doubt, we have men who are super talkative and can hold long conversations and give you just as many details.
Because the funny thing is, the example that I gave you earlier, like if I was telling my husband that so and so was getting a divorce, he'd want me to know it straight up. With him. But if I'm on the phone giving the girl the details and going on, then he'll be interested. Like, oh, really? Well, what she have on? Or who is he? Or, stuff like that. So he trying to pretend like he ain't interested, but he is.
Yeah. So, and it's so beautiful the way we can talk about this, because it's definitely time for people to step out of their shells. I found many people create these hard shells around them, thinking that they have to protect themselves. A person who feels like they have to protect themselves has not owned that they are the controllers of their destiny and their lives and their environments, which also include the people that they invite into their lives. We forget. When I work with couples, because sometimes I'll take some couples for clients, right? And they'll get on there and they're bickering left and right, and they're talking from a position of powerlessness. And I say, well, just like you chose each other, you can unchoose each other, right? And that stops them because people forget they have options, but because they invested so much money, time, children, their hearts, their minds into this venture, i.e. the relationship, they don't think that they can leave. It'd be too much of a heartache to leave. But which one is more unbearable? The fact that you're fighting every day, or the thought that this might be over and actually offered you some peace? Right?
And I agree with that. I want to add too, and I'm just curious if this also comes up in the Black community. I wonder if we've gotten used to pain such that you brought up the proposal of, maybe, ending the relationship. And this might go to your argument for further. I, as much as possible, if there's not abuse, I like to consider the option of continuing it. But what about continuing it in a way that makes it happy? Like, I think people think, like the client you were just referencing, like, if it's bad, then it just has to be this way. Now, this is an abusive situation, so I would never, I can't see anything like that working out. But I do believe there are situations where people can be unhappy in a relationship and not know that they have the right to experience. They almost think it's normal because we were slaves, right? It's in our blood. Like, we know how to survive in very hostile, less than ideal situations and conditions. So then when we get in this relationship and when we're unhappy, we don't even think about happiness because our parents were unhappy. Everything we see on TV is unhappy. Their divorce rate is high anyway. So this is just what happens in relationships.
Yes.
What can you kind of speak on that?
Yes, pain is a driving force to protect yourself. Nobody wants more pain. Most people have experienced one painful event and they don't want to repeat it, so then they put up the defense and the wall. They have pain aversion.
Pain aversion, I love that. So how do you work? Because what I'm hearing you say also is that you can be in pain, you can have this thing, and then there's another way. How do we get there? Because, like, when you meet someone, at 20, right, and you get together and you marry or you stay together, whatever, have children, at 30, you're a different person. And that gives you a lot of time to make mistakes and make bad choices and things like that. But at some point, you learn, or at least you want to learn, how to do it a better way. But you've got this 10 years of history of not doing it in a good way. And you don't trust each other enough to know that, okay, this time it happened, but it wasn't on purpose, or it wasn't intended to bring harm, or it didn't really happen. It's just a fragment of my imagination based off of the other 10 years. I mean, how do you address that? Like,
one, going back to education and talking about what pain really is.
Okay.
Pain is a thought or an idea or a story, that stems from another experience. Meaning, if you were a child and your parents abandoned you, that begins your story. So now you're in a relationship, and anything that your partner does that resembles being left or rejected, the pain comes up. It comes up to protect you. It's that outer shell. So looking at these particular situations from a different perspective and understanding is re-educating yourself about what pain is, where it comes from, and how you utilize it is key. It's like what I mentioned earlier with happiness. Happiness is a state of mind. It's not something that you receive from an external source. They can only add on to what you already have. Nobody should be able to control you to that degree. Same thing as pain. Pain comes from an external source. Most of the time, although we do inflict ourselves with pain with negative thoughts and doubts and fears, but when it's coming from someone else, looking at that from a perspective of, oh, wait, if I'm buying into what they're doing to me, then I must think I am what they're saying I am, or at least how they're treating me. So I'm buying into how this person is treating me and what they're saying. When you change the wording, oh, well, you know what that person thinks about me is none of my business. Because I'm confident, right? I can't believe that person was raised in the way to actually treat people like that, because I wasn't. So I can't participate in that. I don't know. I don't identify with that. That person just called me a name that definitely wasn't given to me. But that reflects on their problem and their understanding of interactions in human beings, not mine. Right. So when you change the perspective and understanding of what something could be as a potential pain, you can avoid or lessen the impact after that event happens. Because of course, when stuff happens and it shocks us, we're like, oh, it hit me in my heart.
Absolutely.
That's a real thing. That's real. Like, the heart actually aches in heartbreak. Literally, there's science behind it.
Yes, I do believe that.
And when we start looking at it and breaking it down from the perspective that we are not the victim, like to put it in psychology terms, that we are not the victim, and we do not have to continue to trauma bond with these individuals.
Please describe that real quickly.
Trauma bonding is when you have found another individual who have had the same hurtful experiences as you or very similar. So now the two of you find commonality within each other and you want to bond together over that trauma. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens because we think, oh, that guy, he totally understands me. She gets me. Well, you get each other from a pain point, but every other aspect of how you're interacting does not gel. You have to look
each other from a healthy point too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, you are absolutely right about that.
It's normal to them because it's what they know to exist. Yeah.
Yes, it's normalized. So if we don't have an opportunity to look at these situations from a different perspective, if we don't give ourselves a chance to see ourselves in a different way, other than what we've experienced thus far, but what we want to create our lives to be, because we know that can be worked to change that belief system, then we'll stay stuck in what our caregivers showed us in terms of how to deal with certain situations or even what we believe about ourselves.
Correct. Absolutely. So back to, because I want to make sure that our audience gets all that they've come here for. Back to our original question. So you've explained why it's important not to embarrass and humiliate a man. Is there any practical tips for how we can actually respond in a way that doesn't do it to begin with?
So yeah, it always depends on the scenario. There's some common tips that I usually give when you're communicating with men that I give to women. And that is, ask him one question in one way, not several different ways. We have a habit of doing that. It seems like we want to fill, F-I-L-L. We want to fill space, but that's not what we need to do. You ask a question one time. So,
is it okay if I ask, is it okay? Like, can I ask you a question right now? Like, because I think even that sometimes might set up I just really want to know, because I want to know, is it good a time? Like, I don't know if you're in your head. I don't know if you know.
Look, you're on the third step. So yes, that is absolutely doable. It's like, so one, you don't ask the same question. Ask it one time. Hey babe, do you want tacos tonight or do you want Italian? Then hold and wait for him to answer, because he might say, I don't care. Still hold. Just wait, because we want to jump in and fill in, the silence. Mm-hmm. And this is actually where you'll get more information, where you don't have to go back and ask him the same questions over and over again. He'll go, oh, well, you know what? Now that I think about it, we had Italian last week and I didn't really care for blah, blah, blah. Let's go to Taco Tuesdays. You got your answer. Then you don't have to go back, well, why don't you want to go back to the Italian place? Well, he just told you. And you asked him, you gave him two options and he chose one. So don't go back picking over the option that he chose. That's what makes men not want to engage in women, because they don't know how to turn off the question faucet. They want to keep going. He just wants it to be over with. Just make a decision and let's just keep moving. That's all he wants. And so when there's something big you want to talk about, babe, I really would like to talk about installing a totally new kitchen. You think that's something we can chat about? Maybe Sunday we can step out and go get some sherbet or something like that. Would that be okay? Does that work for you? And give him a minute to process it, because he might say, we don't need no kitchen.
First thing he gonna say, before I even get a question out of my mouth, who gonna pay for this?
Right. And then that's
how much does it cost?
See, that's it. See, babe, that's why I wanted to set up a time to chat. What do you think? Sunday at 2? So that fixes what you just said, right? Because it gives him time to think about what he wants to say to you. Men do not respond immediately like women do to questions and accusations. They don't like the accusations.
No.
The questions. Women wear their emotions like little machine guns ready to fire off. Men, they're in a well deep down. And they need time to go and get it, because he's not thinking about it at that moment. Women have a string of answers ready to go.
We're gonna say before we even start.
He got one string and it's all attached at the bottom, where he got to go down there and strip through them and see which one to bring up. So that's why you pause when you ask him one question one way. And then you ask for permission to meet with him, not permission as in you're less than or he's authority over you, but showing him that you respect his time and his thoughts. When you do that, when he comes to talk to you, he's more open.
He's more open.
He's not.
Yeah, I have a really great example to kind of support what you're saying. My husband's an engineer, and I'm always messing up on my computer. And when he comes to fix my computer, I'll have like 12 different browsers open. And he just drives me crazy. He's like, you've got, how can you be all over here? And I was like, well, how many do you have open at a time? He's like, one. He's like, if I'm on Facebook, when I'm done, I close out of it. Then I go to my email. Then I close out of it. Then I, surf the web or Google. But the point is, we have all these different things, all these wires going at once. He's like, no, one at a time. And 90% of the time, that's really what's wrong with my computer too. It's just too busy, with so much stuff going on. But yeah, that's real. That is actually absolutely 100% real. Well, Sulanda, I want to know as we wrap up, what are some ways tell me some of your resources. You were telling us about a course that you previously did. What courses are you running right now?
Okay, so it's so exciting for me because I am putting together a 5-city tour for men to come together and have some weekend gameplay around their common issues. I think that's the best way to put it. And to talk about things that's not so common. But right now, I have several courses for men and women, and you can find them at the Woo Zone. Right?
Okay, got it. So
but I'm working.
Send me a link to that so I can put that in the show notes.
Absolutely. And then next month I am launching again for men the course to understand women, to decode them, to know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it.
Love it. That's next month is defined by July.
Yes.
Okay, because I think this is coming out in July. But we'll make sure that we have that information in the notes as well.
I'll send it to you. Yeah. So I'm really super excited. And I still take clients, one-on-one clients, and then I take a few couples clients here and there.
Okay.
So it's imperative that they know who they are in the world, what they have to offer, and then how can they best help their partners get to their greatest potentials.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I think that is pretty much all we have today. Is there any final thing you want to make sure that we share with our audience today?
Yes, be kind with yourselves. Don't be quick to think that your partner is trying to torture you because they don't understand what you want or what you need. There is a science.
I love that.
Offer, if anything, not just peace for your partner, but peace for yourself.
Peace for yourself. Love that. Love that. Awesome. 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 Well, you have been a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate you for sharing it with us today. Y'all come check out Miss Sulanda Smith. She clearly knows what she's doing, and she is available and willing to serve you. All right. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you, Dr. Mari. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate whoever's listening. Got a question? You can always email me too. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to be with you on this journey. Peace and blessings, Dr. O. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Black Marriage and Family Therapy Matters podcast, where we connect Black families to Black therapists. Since you've listened all the way through, come on in and join the family. If you haven't done so yet, please join our free community where we offer weekly trainings and monthly giveaways. We can be found on Facebook under the Black Marriage and Families Matter Facebook group. And since you're serious about joining our family, we also invite you to join our All In campaign, which signifies your commitment to go all in, not only for yourself, but in helping us reach more people by downloading this podcast wherever you are listening to it, leaving us a review, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. This really helps us reach more people and change more lives. After all, Dr. Martin Luther King once said, we can all get more done together than we can apart. With that said, I want to encourage you to share this episode with just 3 other people who you think might also benefit from our community and what we are offering, with the hopes that all of you can join our All In campaign. When you're done, simply click the link All In Campaign in the bio and receive a free copy of my course entitled Goodbye Toxicity, which is valued at $297. This course will help you to work through some of the difficult experiences that arise in most of our relationships, and it's completely free to you with your commitment to join our All In campaign. We look forward to connecting with you every Monday and Wednesday. Thanks for listening.